Hi, I'm John from Chatbot, and in this video I will show you how we can accept payments inside a Telegram chatbot. Let's dive in. Before I'm going to show you how we can accept payments inside a Telegram chatbot, be sure to check out my previous video on how you can create a Telegram chatbot with Xenio or with ManyChat. Because in this video, I'm not going to show you how you can create the Telegram chatbot, how you're going to connect it with Telegram. I already showed that before in my previous videos, so be sure to check them out, and I'll also add the link in the description. And for this video, I'm going to use two things. I'm going to use ManyChat and I'm going to use a payment provider system. And the reason why I'm going to use ManyChat is because they have a really good interface to test this integration and to create this integration. And ManyChat has also direct integrations with PayPal and with Stripe. But that's not what I'm going to use today, because today I want to create a setup that you can create on any other chatbot platform. And I know that many of you are not using ManyChat and that many of you have a chatbot platform without direct integrations to payment providers. So today I'm going to create a setup that you can use on any chatbot platform. And for the payment provider system, I'm going to use Mollie. So you can just go to mollie.com and then you can just sign up for an account. And I already did that, so I'll just sign into my account. So I'll just log in. And what is pretty important here is that when you sign up for a Mollie account, you need to be a legitimate business. You need to be verified by Mollie. You need to have some proof that you're a business. And that's pretty important, because if you don't show that, you cannot accept payments with Mollie. But I must say that it's almost with any other payment provider system. You need to be a business. You need to have a business ID, for example. So that kind of information, you need to give that to Mollie. And once Mollie has verified you, you can accept payments. And what I really like about Mollie is that you just have one system and can accept payments from various payment providers. So I'll just show you what I've set up. So I'm now in my settings. I go to my Chatbot profile, and then here I have my payment settings. And here for example, I have credit card, I have Apple Pay, I have PayPal, and you have all these different payment providers in one system. And that's what I really like about Mollie. And the second thing, what I really like about Mollie, is the cost of the payment. The payment costs are pretty low, and especially for small businesses or medium to small businesses, this is really good to have. I'm not saying you need to use Mollie per se, but I think it's a good payment provider system. You could use any other payment provider system. They work often in a similar way. So what are we going to do today? Today we're going to send a payment link to a user in Telegram, and then after 30 seconds we're going to check whether the payment link has been paid. And when the payment link has been paid, we can say something like, okay, thank you for the payment, and otherwise we can say that the payment hasn't been received yet. So to do this, we are going to start with ManyChat. So I will just head over to ManyChat. I will create a new flow and I will call it accept payments inside Telegram. And the first step, what you want to do is you want to create an action. So we're going to drag this in, create the action, add an action, and we're going to use an external request. And if you're using another chatbot platform than ManyChat, often this is called an external request, an API call, a webhook. These are all different terms for pretty much the same thing. So what we want to do here is we want to make a request to Mollie. And how are we going to do this? We're going to do this by using Mollie's documentation. So I'll also add the documentation in the description. And what we want to do is we want to create a payment link. So this is the Mollie documentation for a payment link, and I will just read through it and just look at the different steps. So we are going to create a payment link, and we're going to do that by using this URL. So we can just copy this URL and paste it inside here. And you also need to make sure that you have a post request. So here it says post, so here it needs to be post. What post pretty much means is that we're going to send information to Mollie. And I'm going to show you just in a bit what kind of information we're going to send. Then we also need to add a header. So we have a request header, and then probably your question is, okay, what kind of header do we need to add? Well, in Mollie, you can just go to the documentation, and then you have the authentication part. So what a header does is that it authenticates, it just looks whether you are a business of Mollie, because anyone could use this link. So what you then can do is you can click on API keys, scroll down, and then here you have the authenticating an API call. So what you need to do is you need to just copy this part, and you can paste it inside here. And the key will be the authorization, and the value will be this. So we just copy that over here. So what this means is that we want to authorize our system, and we want to do that with a bearer token. Bearer is just a technical way for saying, hey, here's my API key, and then your API key. But this is just a API key we got from the documentation, so we need to insert our own API key. And if you sign up for Mollie, you get two kinds of API key. We get a test API key and a live API key. The test API key is to test out the integrations, to test out whether Mollie is working correctly. So that's what we're going to use today, but once this is working, once this is live, we're going to use the live API key. So if we head over to Mollie, you can just go to developers, go to API keys, and then here I have the Chatbot, and I have here the test API key. So I can just copy this and then paste it inside the value. So that's the first thing. Then we need to go to the body. So we are going to send information, and the question is, what kind of information do we want to send? So then we go back to the Mollie documentation, and then we see that we have two required parameters. So we have a description and we have an amount. So what we can do is we can just open this, and this is called JSON. So JSON is just a kind of way of sending information from system to system. And when creating these kinds of external requests and API calls, this is like a standard of sending information. So we're going to send the description, and the description will be test. So this is how you send information. So we are going to send the description, and the value of the description is test. And then we can add a comma, and then we want to send an amount. But an amount is what I call a nested object. So that's an object with other objects beneath it. And you can see that by going to click on show child parameters, and then we have the amount, we have the currency, and we have the value. So what we can do then is we can say amount, and then we can open up a new brackets, and then inside the brackets, and I'm just clicking on tab here, we're going to set the currency and set the value. So the currency will be euro, and the value will be 100. And also make sure that around every value, around every currency and value, you need to set these double semicolons, because otherwise it wouldn't work. So that's pretty much the thing that we need to do, and then you can just click on test the request. And then you will see that it is created. So we created the request, we created the payment link. But what we now want to get from Mollie is the payment link itself. We only made the request. Mollie says, okay, here's the information, but it is inside JSON, so we cannot do anything with this information in ManyChat yet. So what we basically need to do is get that information from JSON and insert it in custom fields in ManyChat. So what we can do is we're going to click on save now, and then we'll just open in a new tab with settings, and I will go to my fields. So I'm going to create two new custom fields. So what we want from Mollie, and we can also check that in the documentation. So here we have the response, and then we can get a payment link object is returned as described in get payment link. So we get information back, and as you can see here, if we test the request, we get this nested JSON. So we can just copy this JSON, and then we go to a JSON formatter. So I will also add the link to the description here, but we can just copy this, click on process, and then we have information that we can actually use. So here we have all these kind of information, and we can also copy this, and we are going to paste that in a JSON pad online evaluator. I will also add this in the description. So what you see here is a lot of information like the resource, the ID, the description, the mode, all that kind of information. What we pretty much need are two things. We're going to need the payment link itself, and we need to use the ID, because we're going to use the ID to check later on if someone paid this particular payment link. So what we can do is inside ManyChat, we're going to create two new user fields. We're going to use the payment ID, which will be a text, and we're going to create the payment link and click on create. So then if we go back to the request, we have a response, and now we want to map this information. So the information that is, for example, here, so here we have the payment link. We want to have this information inside a custom field, and that's why I'm going to use this JSON path online evaluator, because we're going to use this system to eventually put the information from Mollie inside our custom field. So what we can do is we can create a response mapping, and here we need to add the JSON path, and we are going to select the custom field. So what we want to do is first we want to get the payment ID. So we can get that by using a dollar and then looking for the ID. So this is ID, so I just type in $.id, and then here you will see that we get this information, which is the ID that we need. So we can just copy this, paste it over here, and we want the ID to be saved in the payment ID custom field. And the second thing that we want is the payment link. So here you can just search for the payment link. So here's the payment link, and this is inside another object. So what we can do is first we want the $sign, then the dot, then the underscore links, then we get this information, and inside the underscore links we want the payment link, so we can click on dot payment link, and then inside the payment link we want the href, because the href contains the literal link, so just dot href, and then we get the payment link. So we can just copy this and then here paste it inside the payment link. Then click on save, and this is pretty much it. So now we made a request to Mollie and said, hey, we want to get a payment link, the description is test, and we want it for 100 euros. And now we're going to send the payment link inside Telegram. So add the Telegram and then say, here is the payment link. Payment link. And then click on publish. And then we can preview this. So I'm going to open Telegram. Click on open link. And then here is the payment link. And then we can create it, click on it. This will open up in another browser I'm seeing right here. So I just drag the browser right here. And then you will see that we created a payment of 100 euros. The description is test, and we can pay with every payment provider that I've currently set up on Mollie. So this is working. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to check whether someone paid this link. And if they didn't pay the link, then we can say something like, hey, you didn't pay the link. And otherwise, we can thank them for paying the link. So when we go back to Mollie, we are going to use a different integration. So we are going to use the get payment link, because we want to get a specific payment link and we want to know whether the payment link has been paid. So if we go to ManyChat, we are going to wait 30 seconds. So I'm going to add a smart delay. The smart delay will be 30 seconds. And then we are going to add another external request. So we'll just copy this one because it will be pretty similar. And then inside this, we're going to set this URL, and we are also going to set it to get instead of post. So this will be get, and instead of here using the ID, we need to insert the payment ID custom field that we set before. So we're going to click on this, payment ID, and then we're going to get the payment ID. So what you're pretty much doing here is that you say, hey Mollie, just give me the payment link with this payment ID, and that's the one we just set up. For the authorization, we're going to use the same thing, so we still have the same API token, the test API token, and then we can just click on test the request, and then it says 200 OK. So it could be the case that it's saying it gives an error, then it will be a 500 or no response, then you will get something different than 200. But here it says, okay, you get a good payment link. So we can just copy this, go back to the JSON formatter, scroll up, click on process again, and then we can paste this or copy this and paste it over here. And then you see we get a lot of different information. And what we basically want to know is whether this payment link has been paid. And how do you know that? We know that by the paid ad attribute. So the paid attribute tells us whether the payment link has been paid. And we want that information inside ManyChat. So we just go back to ManyChat or go back to the settings, and we're going to create a new user field called payment link paid ad. And it will be a date time, because if the link has been paid, it will be at a particular date and a particular time. So we are going to click on create, and then here we're going to add the response. We can just remove this, and we need to evaluate again, okay, where's this information? And this information is pretty simple. It will be just at paid ad, because in this case it is null, which could be true. So we're going to copy this information, paste it over here, and then we want that information inside the payment link paid ad, and then we're going to hit save, and then inside the flow we're going to check whether the payment link paid ad has any value. So we're going to create a condition, and the condition will be payment link paid ad has any value. If it has any value, then we're going to say thank you for the payment, and otherwise we're going to say you haven't paid anything yet, and then hit publish, and it's basically it. So we can go and preview this flow. Go to Telegram, here's the payment link, then we can just click on this payment link, and again this will open up in not the correct browser that I was using just now. So I will drag it here from my second screen, and then we can just pay this. So I'll just pay by Ideal. I will choose a bank, just a random bank, and I'm going to set the status of the payment to paid and click on continue. And now we need to wait 30 seconds. Oh, we even need to wait. It says thank you for the payment. So now it shows that we have paid the link. Then we can preview this again. Here's the payment link, and then we don't do anything. So in about 30 seconds, it will probably say, hey, you haven't paid yet. So we're just going to wait for this. And as you can see, it says you haven't paid anything yet. So that's it. That's how you can accept payments inside your Telegram chatbot by using ManyChat and using Mollie. But as I already said before, you can set this up with any other chatbot platform as long as they provide external requests or API calls or webhooks. These are all different names for pretty much the same thing. Also, you can use a different payment provider than Mollie. I'm just using Mollie because I really like it. I'm also using it for my own website. But as long as you have another payment provider which also has like correct documentation how you can set this up, it will be fine. And that's it. If you have any questions on how you can use ManyChat or how you can create Telegram chatbots, please leave a comment below and I will reply as soon as possible.